good evening, and welcome to tonight's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Tina R. Dawson, and the owner of True Blue Designs, and it is truly an honor to spotlight tonight's guest. Now, before I bring him on, please make sure that you click the like button, thumbs up, and make sure that you share and let everybody know that we are on. You can also follow us on our Instagram page at True Blue Designs. Now, I have a special announcement to make. I am so excited. Next Wednesday's show will be streamed live on Facebook and YouTube. That's right. We will be streaming simultaneously on both platforms. So put in the comment section #growth. We have grown each segment, and I thank you so much for your support. Now, to introduce tonight's guest, Mark Pacich was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but currently resides in Orlando, Florida. He concentrates his talents mainly on portraiture, specifically the depiction of famous popular culture figures from TV, movies, and comic book world. Now, that's just a little information about our guest, and I'm going to allow him to tell you the rest. Give a warm welcome. Put the hands together in the comment section. Put your emojis and give a warm welcome. I said a happy birthday. A warm welcome to tonight's guest, Mark Pacich.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you and being a spotlight guest on the show. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. You know, I usually see you at the conferences. So with COVID, no traveling, no conferences. So yeah, it's been a bit.
Yes. Did you see that your buddy was on the show last week, Daniel?
Yeah, I saw him. I haven't seen him either in a while.
Well, today is a special day. It's his birthday. So happy birthday, Daniel Smith. Today is his birthday.
He's a young guy. He still gets birthday cakes.
Yeah. I hope he's on tonight, but if not, I understand. Well, thank you so much. How's the family?
Family's good. You know, kids are getting big. As you know, my wife is, she's out in Texas. She's been there for 6 months now.
Wow.
She's a respiratory therapist, so she's in the COVID ward, and you know she's helping save lives, and you know working real hard. But we were able to see her one day in the last 6 months.
One day.
So it's been tough. It's been tough, but she's a hero. I mean, I can't say enough about her. You know.
Yeah. Well, we're so thankful for her service. And we just pray that God's protection over her and that he brings her home safely and with her mind strong. So we'll keep her in our prayers.
Yeah, it's rough, man. Mentally, you could tell it wears on her. Yeah. You know, it's wearing on all of them. But, you know, she's doing what she's doing. And like I said, we consider her a hero, without a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. And I know the kids miss her.
Oh, yeah.
Well, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. I only read just a little bit of your bio, and I'll let you tell them the rest.
That's all they need to know. I mean, no, like you said, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, specifically Bethel Park. I moved out down to Tampa, Florida, right before I graduated, and I graduated from Brandon High School. So, what's up to all my Bethel Park and Brandon people out there? Went to the University of Florida. Graduated in 4 years with a art degree. That's where I pledged the greatest fraternity in the world, Phi Beta Sigma. Still active in the fraternity. I do my artwork, as you can see behind me. I've been doing it really heavy for the past 15, 16 years. But that's not my main job. I have a job where I'm a government contractor. I actually work in the simulation industry, where we train the Army, Marines, Navy SEALs. So I've been there. It's the Swedish company Saab, and I've been there for 18 plus years.
See, I never knew that about you. Learn something every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went ahead and mentioned that you are a member of the greatest fraternity on earth. So we're going to start with that. First of all,
Okay.
happy belated Founders Day.
Well, thank you. And happy pre-Founders Day for you.
And thank you, sir. You all celebrated 107 years of brotherhood, scholarship, and service. So let's start with that. So can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to be a part of Phi Beta Sigma?
That's about an hour and a half show, but I'll try to I'll try to limit it. I will just say at the University of Florida, or even before I went to college, I didn't know there were such things as historically Black organizations. I didn't know what a Kappa, Sigma, Omega, Alpha, Iota. I didn't know any of that. So that was kind of a shock to actually see that they exist. And then, of course, School Days came out, the movie, which, wow, this really is real. But when I decided to become a member of a fraternity, I looked at both white organizations, Black organizations, multicultural organizations, everything. And I was really drawn, I guess, for some reason, the Black fraternities. I really respected all of them on my campus. You know, there was no hatred, there was no animosity. I really respected what they were doing, what they stood for, the way they carried themselves for the most part. But, you know, when I looked at it and I started talking to people that were members of that organization, I was kind of shocked at what I heard as far as the amount of service done in the community. That this is a lifelong commitment, not just a 3 or 4 year commitment. Mm-hmm. That this goes until you die. It's not once you're out of college, you wipe your hands clean, right, and then you say, I was a member of that organization in college. I still tell people to this day, yeah, I'm in a fraternity. And the next question they ask is, but aren't you out of school? That's why. I mean, I can sum it up. I had a coworker, real quick. This is a great story. He was a member of a white fraternity, and I have nothing against them. I mean, they are what they are. Everybody is what they are. But he said he saw the fraternity tag on the front of my car, and he said, I don't recognize that fraternity. I said, well, it's a historically Black fraternity. And he said, oh, I didn't know that they had those. And I said, yeah, neither did I, but they do. And he said, well, why did you join that organization? I mean, I was in a fraternity. And I said, that's why. Because you just said you were in one. I am in one. And he said, but you're out of school. I said, I can't make you understand, but that's your own question. But, you know, I really liked what the Sigmas were doing on the campus. I mean, they had large numbers. They were very influential. They had athletes, disc jockeys, artists, you know, the Playboy types. They had, you know, some guys that were security. You know, you had guys like that. But I mean, they were very respected on the campus.
Yeah.
And I really wanted something that I had to work hard for. If it was going to last the rest of my life,
yeah,
I didn't want to just have it be easy to get in. Believe me, it wasn't easy. But I wanted it. You know, I wanted something I had to work towards.
Right. Right.
Yep.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And what year did you become a member?
What year did I become?
Yeah.
Spring 91.
Oh, 91. Okay. Yeah. I got you beat by a couple of years.
I'm getting up there.
Now, also, we're going to also tell our viewers that you are the international historian. So, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. So let's talk a little bit about that. How did that come about?
Well, there was a point in time in the 90s, later 90s, that I was getting frustrated and discouraged that certain things about our organization we couldn't find. Mm-hmm. We were told they didn't exist. So many questions that we had no answers for. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, you know, why these archival items, these older items from the beginning of our organization history, why we didn't have them. Did they really exist? They could answer so many questions. Mm-hmm. So I started really scouring the country, archive departments, libraries, older members, just trying to find anything that we could put our hands on to have a definitive history, because there were so many gaps.
Right.
There were so many spaces and so many questions. And I was kind of like the unofficial historian collecting all these items, whether it was, like I said, auction houses, eBay, archive departments, libraries, fellow members, that people looked to me, for these answers. And I was only one person doing this in the beginning. And there were other brothers that had like-minded, interests that joined with me, that were from all over the country, saying, you know what, I've always wanted to do this. I was doing it a little bit myself, and then I stopped. Let's team together. Let's form this team. So we formed like a history team in the late 90s, early 2000s to actually collect these items, to actually interview our older members who we knew weren't going to be around forever.
Right.
So we traced our oldest members from, Howard University in 1918. We were able to interview people that were that old, 100 years old, 101 years old. The oldest person I ever talked to was 101 years old, pledged in 1918 at Howard University.
Wow.
So we started this team doing it, and President Jimmy Hammock appointed me the official national historian about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And I've been the historian ever since, and I have a great group of brothers that are very dedicated, all spots of the country, that are always looking to find those missing links, to fill those gaps, because I could speak for my organization, and I don't know about other ones, but we always think that people are going to be around forever.
Yeah.
And the reality is they aren't. And there's no guarantee you're going to see tomorrow. And we've heard so many stories about, oh, you should have talked to so-and-so. He knew so much. Oh, I wish you would have called me earlier because I had all these items that I gave to Goodwill or I threw away. And
oh, wow.
It's very depressing stories, but we try to put a limit to that, not a stop, but a limit to where we will do everything that we can to fill those gaps. And it's been great. I mean, the support has been amazing. Young brothers who are thirsty for knowledge, and older brothers that thought that something like this would never happen. And I started a Sigma museum that actually cataloged and displayed these items. And I know you've seen it at conferences.
Yes.
That I would travel with it to different cities, different regions, and our national conventions. So brothers from all over the world could see these things that, give them a sense of pride and answer questions and teach them things that maybe they didn't know. And I think the best part, when people see these things in front of them, you get the older brothers that maybe were around when this actual item was brand new. Wow. And they'll tell you personal stories about it. Oh, I remember that conclave in Louisville in 1955. I was there. I was a brand new member. Yeah, I'm 80 years old now or whatever, but I was there. And I can tell you this picture right here, I can tell you what happened before, during, and after that picture was taken. So it's those things that I learned by displaying those items.
Wow, I've seen the museum, and it is awesome. I think I met you when I first met you. I was introduced to you by the late Charles Stein Jr., CJ. May you rest in peace. And he introduced you to me at the Montgomery Regionals. We were in Montgomery, and you had the traveling museum with you. And I walked in there and I was just full of knowledge because you shared so much with me and all the other brothers that have walked in there. And so if the brothers have not seen that museum, they need to see it. They really do.
And actually, a lot of the items now are permanently housed at our national headquarters in Washington, D.C. I still have a lot of items here, but, we could switch items in and out now that we have a permanent spot. And our past president, Jonathan Mason, and other past presidents, helped make that happen, especially for our centennial, which was in 2014. So yeah, that was an amazing thing. A lot of hard work went into that.
Now let's talk about 2017, where I saw a picture of you in the snow, and I think that's when you located or put a marker on Honorable Charles I. Brown's burial resting place. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's about a 2-hour segment, but I'll try to squeeze it into a couple minutes. But for the people out there watching who don't know, Phi Beta Sigma has three founders. Two of the founders throughout history were very well known, were very traceable, were very active. So a lot is known about them. But we had one founder that, after he left college in 1914 and went to go teach school in Topeka, Kansas, he kind of disappeared. He disappeared from time. There was, after 1924, there was no contact between him and the fraternity that we were aware of. We couldn't find any record of him surviving past 1924. And that's something that was kind of just accepted as a member coming in, as a brother to the organization, that Charles I. Brown was just the missing founder.
Right.
And it was nothing to be ashamed about or embarrassed about, because, even though they were founders, they were regular people, and things happen to regular people all the time, to where, whether it's good or bad, but things happen where people do disappear, whether through no fault of their own or on purpose. So I came to a point that where, especially with technology today, that I couldn't accept that he could still remain missing.
Mm-hmm.
So this history team of 6 other brothers, main group of brothers, we got together and we decided we're going to look for this guy, knowing that he's not alive, but we're going to try to find out what happened to him. And over 17 years, I spent 17 years of my life with these brothers.
17.
Tracking him down, tracing his footsteps, hiring professional archivists and genealogists.
Wow.
Going through archive departments and libraries and old newspaper periodicals, census records, personal interviews. 17 years we did find him. And we were able to find out pretty much what he did his entire life,
Wow.
where he lived the last 15 years of his life in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
the church that took care of him, the church where he worked. So we were able to find out where he worked, where he lived, and actually where he was buried. And he was buried in an unmarked grave in outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So we were able to work with the church and place a proper headstone honoring him in that year that you stated. It went in the snow. But it was a labor of love, and it was very difficult. But yeah, 17 years of my life.
Wow.
It took.
Yeah, and then this past weekend for Father's Day, Founders Day, excuse me, not Father's Day, Founders Day, the Honorable past President Mason had placed a marker at the church where he worked at. I saw that also.
Yes, it was a marker that was actually, made for that event. I actually have one of them up in the room. It was gifted to me by Brother Mason.
Oh, wow,
But
that's nice.
yeah, it weighs about 75 pounds. You don't realize how heavy those things are. But yeah, that marker was supposed to be placed outside the church where he lived and worked, and for the church that took care of him those many years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or whatever. But it just never happened because of weather, because of certain rules and laws the city has, what you can put down and when you can put it down. So, we stayed with it, and you're right. This past weekend, they actually got a team together and put it right there in the sidewalk.
Yeah, so I actually saw that. That was a nice presentation too. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that he is no longer lost. And it took you 17 years to find him, but now everybody knows where all the founders are. So that is awesome. A great bit of gratitude to you.
And it took a lot longer because he didn't have a really unique name. His name was Charles Brown. Right. Very difficult to find one person named Charles Brown.
So also, just to give a little, since you are the historian, give everybody a little history. You are a member of the famous Unknown Step Team of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And I'm sure that a lot of the members have seen the videos online on YouTube. But if you could just talk about a little bit about that, how that came about.
Whew. Well, for all the people out there that have seen me step, you know I love stepping. For all the people that don't and never got to see me step, I'm sorry, I'm retired. But
YouTube.
you should have been born sooner, but it was quite a sight to see, believe me.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh yeah, it was. Now, what did you reveal? Because I know you all were quote unquote unknown for a while. So
yeah.
when did you all reveal who all the members were of the step team?
Well, the issue was I had a step team in Florida, and Eric Jaffe in New Jersey, he had a step team,
Okay.
and we're both Phi Beta Sigma men, and we actually would compete against each other. And
Really?
he was a step master for his team. I was a step master for my team, and they were very good. I mean, they would beat us. So I'm like, man, these guys, I got to give it to them. So he came up to me at one of the after parties after a step show where they performed, and he said, "Have you ever thought about forming a step team with just white members of Phi Beta Sigma?" And I said, "Hold on, what's somebody reading here?"
That's Daniel.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, so, so he said, "Have you ever thought about forming a team with just white members?" And I said, "No, I really haven't." And I said, "That would be kind of crazy." And he said, "Well, let's do one show with just white members that are legitimate members of Phi Beta Sigma. Let's have our faces and hands covered. And after the show's over, after we perform, we take the masks off." He said, "What do you think would happen?" I said, "I think there would be Armageddon." I said, I said, "I know you step, I step. If we get some guys that can really step and not do it as a joke, but like really do a competition championship show."
Okay.
I said it would be pandemonium. So we got with another brother named Chris Sarkeesian from Arkansas, and we were looking for one show to do, and a show that was enough into the future that we would have time to practice. Because Chris lived in Arkansas, I lived in Florida, and Eric lived in New Jersey. So how are we going to put this show together? So Chris said there is a show called the End of the World Step Show in Arkansas. That is where we need to do it. He said it is huge. It is historic. There will be thousands of people there. If you want to make a statement, do it then. So Eric recorded 2 steps on VHS. I recorded 2 steps on VHS. We sent them to each other. So I learned his, he learned mine. Then we put all 4 steps on a VHS and sent it to Chris. And Chris learned all 4 steps in 3.5 months. We flew in on Thursday, practiced all Thursday night, all Friday, competed on Saturday, made history. It was ridiculous. It was pandemonium. And after the show, Eric came up to me and said, "Well, you want to do it again?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it again." So we contacted another brother, Mark Neubauer, out of Ohio, and we did a show in Kentucky, and then we did a show in Connecticut, and it just started to grow from there. And we were still unknown because we would wear the masks, do 1 step in the beginning, then take the mask off to individual introduction, and then do the rest of the show. And I mean, the rest is history because some brothers from Philadelphia joined the team, New Jersey, brothers from Cheney University, Montclair State. I mean, it was a worldwide thing. But the cool thing was, this was before social media.
Right, correct.
So the secret of what our team consisted of was kept for the most part, because we would do a show in Tampa, and then the next weekend do a show in Seattle, and then in the next weekend do a show in Philly, then the next weekend do a show in San Diego. So we were doing all these shows around the country, and people may have heard through the grapevine or maybe chat rooms, like, you got to see this team, you got to see their gimmick, you got to see what they do on stage. And word got around, but it wasn't like if we did one show and someone posted it on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook to where our cover would be blown. Brothers always tell me, as famous as you guys were, imagine how famous you would have been with social media. I said, no. I said, our whole gimmick would have been ruined with social media.
That's true.
So all in all, I stepped with the Unknown Step team, you know, helping start it with Eric Jaffe from about 1997 to 2003 for them in that range. And I personally stepped in 37 different states.
37?
37, and easily won over 100 some shows. I mean, we kept counting for 100. And to tell you the truth, I mean, we stepped against amazing teams, you know, Sigma teams from Houston, you know, from Memphis, you know, Philadelphia, North Carolina, everywhere. And we stepped against great competition. Alphas from Houston, you know, from South Carolina State, the Kappas from New York, the Kane team, the All-Star team, you know, the Omegas from, you know, Virginia State. We stepped against some of the greatest competition, but we most often came out on top. So, I mean, it was all love, and we made history. And I can honestly say we put in the work, the time, the money, the dedication, that there's no other Greek step team that was more successful than us.
Wow.
You know, it was, like I said, there are teams that win their homecoming show 5-6 years in a row.
Right.
You know, we won 20 shows in a row before we lost our first one. Then we won another 20 before we lost our second show. So we were 42 before we even really got our, you know, our feet moving on the ground.
Wow. Well, I enjoy seeing the videos, and I'm telling you, it's his story. And everybody, if you haven't seen him, go on YouTube to watch the step shows of the Unknown Step team. They are awesome. So thank you for sharing that, because like I said, that story I didn't even know.
I mean, there's some stories I'll tell you off camera, but yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Look, you have to tell me whenever we get back into a hospitality room, you can tell me then.
Then my memory will come back.
You haven't lost your memory back. Okay, so 2 questions. One is, how did you get the name Mallet?
Oh, I knew that was coming. All right.
Short version.
The short version, it's not my line name. Okay. It has nothing to do with the fraternity.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Hey, Roderick, how you doing? World famous Zeta Kappa. All right. So it has to do, and you have to realize the time, 87 to 1990. I was a big MC Hammer fan.
Oh.
Big MC Hammer fan. And there came a point in 1988, I won a talent show. And it was a dance, you know, dance competition. And I could always dance. And for the people out there watching this that know me, you know it. So I with my dance partner, we had like a duo, David Prosser. We won a dance competition. And the first prize was to meet this guy called MC Hammer. Nobody really knew who he was. He was just really known in California. And he was doing a show at a little club in front of 25 people. And they were like, you're going to get to meet him after the show. And we're like, okay, cool. So we meet him after the show, and I meet his background dancers, who I was more actually impressed with because they were more my age. And I got to form a friendship with them. And, you know, this was before Instagram and all that, but I had their phone number and email and stuff. And as Hammer got bigger, Ho Frat Ho, who were his background dancers, they got bigger as well. So instead of performing in front of 25 people, now it's, you know, 12,000, 20,000, 25,000. They stayed in contact with me, and they, as well as my friend Kevin Glenn from Brandon High School, called me the Little Hammer, Mallet. So it was a nickname that was given to me because I would imitate all of Hammer's moves. So when I would go backstage at the concerts, or I'd go back to the hotel with them, They would, one time they even put me in front of Hammer and were like, "Oh, you're the little Hammer. Show them what you got." And I'm nervous. I'm like, "This is the best dancer besides Michael Jackson in the world." But yeah, I busted my moves with my baggy parachute pants and genie pants or whatever. And one thing a lot of people don't know is that this is something I'll never forget. Of all my accomplishments or anything that I've actually seen and actually done, I actually danced on stage with MC Hammer at one of his concerts. When they came to Gainesville, one of the members from Ho Frat Ho called me and said, "Mallet, make sure you go to the show." I said, "Of course I'm going to the show." I said, "I'm going to be front row." They said, "Okay, because we're bringing you up on stage." And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Yes, during You Can't Touch This, the last song of the concert, we're bringing you up on stage. And you're going to be able to dance in front of the entire University of Florida at the O'Connell Center in front of, 15,000 people or whatever." And lo and behold, right before the song started, they pointed to me to the security guard and said, "Bring him up on stage." So my claim to fame was I got to go up on stage, dance You Can't Touch This with MC Hammer, and actually Hammer had the microphone going, "Go Mallet, go Mallet, go Mallet." And I can guarantee you that didn't happen to anybody ever in the history of his musical career. So yeah, that was it right there. My kids still don't believe me.
Awesome.
Yeah, my kids still don't believe me.
They still don't believe you.
They don't believe me. They don't understand how big that was for someone, that was 1990. That was actually before I pledged. So yeah, that was huge.
Wow. Well, we're gonna drop one more piece of history that a lot of people don't know, because what I'm getting ready to segment to. Now, contrary to popular belief, some people probably don't know this, but you are really good friends with Emmett Smith. And Emmett Smith is not an honorary Sigma. Emmett Smith was a brother that actually came through at the same university you did, correct?
Yeah, if I could tell the story. I'm having a little trouble hearing you, but
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
A little louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the story with Emmett is that he, of course, went to the University of Florida, but he left early to go to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
He left early, and he promised his mother that he would always do what he could do to graduate and get that degree. It didn't matter how long it took, but he would always come back to school. Mm-hmm. So he was a Dallas Cowboy, a Super Bowl winner, and he would come back in the spring to work on finishing his degree. Mm-hmm. Well, I knew Emmett a little bit during that time, not even to, call him by name, but just give him a little head nod when I walked past him on campus, because we would see each other a lot, but we never really spoke. Well, Emmett expressed interest in Phi Beta Sigma, which was shocking because I'm like, this guy's an NFL legend already, a Super Bowl winner, everything. Why does he really? I mean, I understand that we're live and we're the greatest. That's understandable. But it was a different thing then. This guy was a franchise. He was a city. He was more than just a student. And he expressed interest, and he came to the interest meeting. He was granted an interview. He passed the interview, and he was put online. He started the process, and he went through the whole process, just like all his other line brothers did, and he finished just like they did. And for all the people that don't understand or confused or hear the rumors, Emmett Smith pledged undergrad. I mean, he came through like any normal undergraduate collegiate student would come through. And he was a little older, but the truth was he had never finished. So he was coming back and being a little older, a Super Bowl champ and a Dallas Cowboy, he was still a collegiate.
Right, because he didn't.
Yeah, so he didn't come through an alumni chapter. He's not honorary. I was there the whole process from the interest meeting all the way to his ceremony. I was there when he got branded. I know who branded him. I know where he was when he got branded. I mean, so everything is legitimate.
Right. See, That's why everybody needs to view this show because you can learn so much. Everybody needs to tune in every Wednesday so you can learn a lot of information. A lot of information. Okay, so can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit. Your voice, it's not that loud like it was in the beginning.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened to our feed. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's just not as loud as before.
Okay, so let's talk about your artwork.
Okay.
So when did you first um, feel inspired to become an artist? When did that first start?
Well, I can remember drawing as early as 5 years old. And I was pretty good then for a 5 year old. And my parents noticed that and they, they pushed me, they encouraged me. And I don't really have any other artists in my family. My brother's an artist, but more, a little bit different than me, but uh, he does more with like movie scripts and writing and stuff like that. That's like his artistic skill. Although he was also a visual artist and graduated with an art degree, but we're two totally different artists. But they encouraged me, and during middle school especially, they would push me and register me for classes outside of school. I was in these adult classes doing figure drawing, and there were all adults in there, and I was like in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And then I took every art class I could in high school. Then I went to college and took every discipline known to man as far as art is concerned. I've taken sculpture, pottery, Chinese calligraphy, watercolor, oil painting, acrylic. You name it, I've done it. And some things I liked, some things I didn't, but they've all strengthened, my love for art, appreciation, and my talent. And yes, I did graduate with an art degree. And I did art here and there. I used to airbrush the jackets with the faces on the back.
Wow.
Those jackets. And I made a lot of
Yeah.
money in college doing the jeans with the artwork and the graffiti on them. But I always
Wow.
did little side jobs like that. And then when I graduated college and I started my career and, I got married and stuff like that, I really didn't do a lot of artwork until I went
Mm.
to a comic convention with my brother. And it was a smaller convention, not like huge, conventions that bring in hundreds of thousands of people. It was one that was for one day at a hotel. And I've always collected comic books. I love the comic book culture. I love, that part of society. I love the stories they tell, the movies, of course. And
Mm-hmm.
as I walked in the vendor room where the artists were, there were some really good artists there, but there were some that I don't know why they were there. And I would walk by the tables and I would just look and say, I'm better than him. I'm better than her. That guy's pretty good. He's better than me. I'm better than them. And I'm thinking, I could do this. I could
Mm-hmm.
do stuff like this, but I don't want to do it like everybody else does. I'm a
Right.
visual artist, but I like to paint. Most
Okay.
of the artists at the conventions are artists with pen and ink, colored pencil, markers, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing these large paintings of comic book characters, science fiction characters, Game of Thrones characters,
Mm-hmm.
cultural figures. And I would make prints and I would make certain products and I'd take it to the conventions and I got a great response because not only was the artwork, good, but it was different.
Right.
And almost all of these conventions that I set up at, nobody is like me. There are artists that are more successful than me, more
Right.
well known than me, which is understandable and all credit to them. But
Mm-hmm.
no one does the paintings like I do.
So let me ask you a quick question. So you said that you like doing like the comic book characters and stuff like that. Do you have to get permission in order to do them? What's that process like?
Well, there's a gray area. There are ways that artists such as myself kind of steer clear of that and get around it. Truth
Okay.
be told, everything is protected.
Right.
Everything's copyrighted.
Right.
Unless you come up with something brand new out of your mind and you can prove it, everything's pretty much copyrighted.
Okay.
There are certain rules to where if you do a one-off painting, like my Bob Marley painting,
Uh-huh.
okay, I'm sure his image is protected by his family. I'm
Right.
sure, those things, are true. But a lot of times, if you just do one painting only, there's no law that governs you from selling that. It's when you
Okay.
make the multiple prints and you make the multiple copies that,
Okay.
companies have a sour taste in their mouth about stuff like that.
Okay. So I also saw that not only Emmett Smith, there's been some other famous people that you've done large portraits of, oil paintings of.
Yeah.
So what's the process like that once you do the portrait that you actually get them to sign? Because there's a couple of pictures out there where after you finish the portrait, you were able to get them to sign the portrait. So how did that happen?
Yeah. In short, if I have 30 paintings upstairs or hanging around my house, I would say about 15 to 18 of them are signed. And when I mean signed,
Oh,
they're
wow.
signed by the actual actor or person portrayed in the painting. Um,
Right.
Sometimes, like I did a painting of Hines Ward for the Pittsburgh
Mm-hmm.
Steelers that he signed. Well, I
Uh,
was lucky enough to be the artist for his charity event that he had in Atlanta many years ago.
oh,
And I
okay.
did a painting of him that he signed that he sold at auction for charity. Then I did a painting
Okay.
for me that he signed, which, by the way, I'm actually selling. So if you are interested in it, I can send you a picture of it. It's big. It's 3 feet by 4 feet. It's a
Mm-hmm.
painting of Hines Ward that's signed by him. So
Wow.
I don't have the room for it. I'm looking to sell it. Please contact me. But so there's instances like that. And Marcus Stroud was another one. Marcus Stroud from the University of Georgia. He actually
Mm-hmm.
gave me my first big break to where he had a charity event and I drove up to Atlanta and had a painting that he auctioned off. And he allowed
Oh,
me to be the artist for his show. So to this day, I thank Marcus Stroud for, giving me that opportunity.
wow.
Now, as far as the comic characters or the science fiction characters, when I do these comic conventions, a lot of these actors are on the guest list. They show up there to sign autographs, to take
Oh,
pictures
okay.
with the fans. So a lot of
Okay.
times I will see who's coming to the show and I will
Mm-hmm.
do a painting specifically of them or their character just to get it signed. It
Okay.
might be
That
a
makes
person that I'm maybe not even a fan of, or they might be in, a Star Trek movie. And I
right.
might not like Star Trek, but I'll do that painting just to get it signed because they might be a very historical person, a very culturally strong person. I started out doing Game of Thrones paintings when
All
Game of
right.
Thrones was going on, all those seasons. And a lot of the shows that I did, the Game of Thrones actors would show up at those shows and I
Mm-hmm.
would get paintings signed. Like I met Jason Momoa way before he became really famous to where there was almost no one standing in line to meet him. And I got to sit there and talk to him for 15 minutes. Now that's unheard of. You can barely look
Yeah.
at the guy in the eye before they shuffle you along and say, all right, next. So I've got to meet some of these actors, before they blew up, before they became
Right.
really famous. But that's the process. I mean, yes, I've had to pay for the autographs and stuff and wait in line. Like I have a Stan Lee painting, and that's one of my prized possessions because I got Stan Lee to sign the painting before he passed away. And I had to wait in line 2.5 hours to get it signed.
Wow.
But there was no way I was leaving before he signed that painting.
I know that's right. You got it right there. You better get it signed.
That's right.
So I also saw you mentioned Comic Con. I know there was a post that you had put out that you miss painting live. Now I am very I have a question about that because I saw the size painting that you did at one of the Comic Cons, and I'm sure you only have a certain amount of time to paint it. So, what is your strategy? How do you get it painted? Within a certain amount of time because it's huge.
Well, it depends. If it's a painting that's I think is really going in a good direction, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
really happy with it, I can paint live at a Comic Con and not worry if I finish it or not. You
Okay.
know, it really doesn't matter. Then there are other ones. Let's say, perfect example is if there's an actor that's going to be at the show and I do a painting of them that's not quite finished, but I purposely wait till the show to finish it, kind of add credibility to it to show people, yeah, I actually am the artist and I'm going to finish it and get them to sign it and stuff like that. I used to paint at the local movie theater here when the Avengers movies were coming out. And the big weekends, starting on Thursday to Sunday, the big blockbuster opening weekend, I would be in the lobby of the movie theater painting, Black Panther or painting Superman or painting somebody who's being, opening weekend, their movie is showing. And I wouldn't care if I finished the painting because I would have offers of people wanting to buy it before it was even done.
Wow.
It was a good chance to promote myself, pass out business cards, stuff like that, and to meet with people. So it was that was a good experience. But as far as painting live, I do love painting live. I mean, that is just great. I mean, I've heard there's been such great feedback with people who just sit there and look and ask questions. And it really doesn't bother me because when I paint live, I'm really not worried at all about finishing the painting. Not at that point.
Okay. So it's basically just to advertise what you can do, basically.
Yeah. Yep. And sometimes, and this is true, especially when I was at the movie theater, if I had a painting that was kind of in its beginning stages, or I really wasn't worried about what I was going to achieve doing the painting, the little kids that would come by, I would give them the paintbrush and tell them to paint, add to it, do what you do. What do you see? What colors do you want? So because I knew if they made some drastic mistake, I could always cover it up. But, everybody was a good sport, and they really liked that. The parents loved it. They would take pictures and videos.
Yeah,
so it was cool.
Yeah, you engaged them. That's awesome. So do you do personal portraits?
I do, and I'm very expensive.
Okay.
but expensive is relative. I mean, I always say this when people contact me about, can you paint my grandmother? Can you paint, my dog? Can you paint my kids? Can you paint me in a Wonder Woman outfit? I never question anyone's bank account. Never. Wow. Yeah. But I also don't price myself based on someone else's budget.
Right.
I base myself on my talent, my training, my degree, my work. I've been busting my butt for a lot of years, perfecting, and I'll never be perfect, but cultivating my talent. So I may say, a painting like that Bob Marley, that's an $8,000 painting. Okay. There are other artists that would laugh at that and say, I don't charge anything less than $40,000 for a piece.
Wow.
There are other artists that say, I've never sold a piece for more than 500. So it's relative. It's, I deal a lot with collectibles, especially with, with the historical context and stuff like that. Something is only worth what someone's going to pay for it.
Right. That's true.
That's true. I can tell you what I think it's worth. I can tell you what I would part with it. For instance, my Stan Lee painting. I had it exhibited at a show and it was signed already and Stan Lee was still living. And a gentleman asked me if it was for sale. And I said, no, it's not. And he just looked at me and said, for any price? And I said, well, that depends. How many zeros and how many commas are in the next sentence you say?
Right.
So he said, well, would you sell it for $10,000? And I stopped, yes, definitely for a second. And I said, no. I said, call me after he passes away. He said, no, because then I know how much it's worth. So, but I mean, it's it's interesting when I display my paintings. Everyone always asks how much, how much for the original. Yeah, I see you have a print here for $15 or $100. How much for the original painting?
Right.
And like I said, I never question anyone's bank account, but when I give them a price, the reactions are on two ends of the spectrum.
Right.
You have the people that say, $3,000. Oh, there's no way I would spend that on a painting. And other people would tell you, well, that's a steal.
Right.
They said, that's a steal. It's not worth, you wouldn't sell it for more than that. So it's two ends of the spectrum and everything in between. That's why when I do the Comic Cons, I have artwork for sale ranging from $8 to $8,000 and everything in between.
Right.
So,
yeah, so that way you can reach everybody.
Exactly.
Now you also, I'm gonna put a plug in right quick because you also did pictures of the Phi Beta. You did it was a set of the Phi Beta Sigma founders. Do you still have any more of those? Because I know you numbered them. Because I ordered a set. I know you numbered them. Do you still have any more of those?
You're referring to the limited edition lithograph prints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were only 500 were made.
Right.
And I think I have 2 sets left.
2?
Well, actually, I have 4. I have number 1 out of 500 and number 500 out of 500. And you could guess who they're staying with. And then I have 2 that are random serial numbers that I think I could still sell. But I also make now the canvas versions, the mounted canvas, the G-clay canvases that are much higher quality than the lithographs. They're more expensive, but I can make those, any size proportional to the original. And they're a higher quality print. They look classier. They're primarily for like chapter events, chapter display tables, fraternity houses, offices, man caves, stuff like that. And if anyone here is interested in those, you can contact me. They're all made to order. I don't keep them piled up in my loft. I make them, made to order. But yeah, and as you know, I also did the Zeta Phi Beta founders.
Yes, and I saw those when I went to go visit. They were, I took pictures and sent them to you.
and the interesting thing about that was they contacted me because they were renovating their headquarters in DC, and they wanted additional founder paintings. And I don't know who referred me, but thank you very much. And they contacted me, told me the size, told me my time limit, and asked me what I would charge. Well, I gave them a price, and they really didn't balk at it. And I said, "Wow, I should have charged them more." But no, it was a fair price. But they would not allow me or did not want me to make prints of them. So the ones in the headquarters are the only ones. Those are the one and only. Those are the originals.
They're all originals.
The ones in headquarters are the original paintings.
Wow. Well, I'm glad I got pictures of those. They were absolutely beautiful. So you mentioned a couple of types of prints that people can get. You mentioned.
What happened? Cut off. I don't see. Oh, something happened, Tina. All I see is me on the screen. I'll just wait to see if you come back. I miss you, Tina. Where are you? We lost the feed. I don't know what to do. Well, I guess if you could still hear me and see me, you asked about the different prints. Yes, there are different prints. There's the lithographs, which are pretty much like a poster, like a movie poster, same material. Then you have the G-clay, which is a printing process, the G-clay canvas prints, where the artwork is actually printed, preserved, and sealed on actual canvas, and it looks just like an original painting. And for people who are typing, I can see the typing. So if Tina, if you want to ask the question and have someone type it, I'll answer it. I just can't see or hear you, Tina. Hey, Joan, I'm still here too. I just can't see anybody. Type a question, I'll answer it. Well, I can tell you, I can show you this Jackie Robinson painting behind me. This is the newest piece I'm working on. It's not done yet. It's a work in progress. I'm doing a cultural icon series that started with Stan Lee. And then I did a Bob Marley painting, which you can see here. I'll move out of the way. I'm moving the wrong way. Got the Bob Marley painting here, the Lion of Judah. After Bob Marley, I did a Miles Davis, the famous jazz musician. And now I'm working on Jackie Robinson. I know who's next, but I'm not going to put it out there just yet. I got to finish Jackie. Hey, Ruben, how you doing? Jimmy, hey, you back, Tina?
I'm back.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I have no clue.
Hey, Jimmy, I
But
think
we have
that
another question.
Jimmy, look at the banner at the bottom of the screen. It has my email address, as well as my Facebook art page, as well as my Instagram page. I'm located in Orlando, Florida. Ruben, I'm painting Jackie Robinson now. Kobe. Ooh, I've been asked to do Kobe. I wish I would have done Kobe a long while ago, but yeah, he's kind of on that list of my cultural icons. I want to do athletes, civil rights activists. I want to do entertainers. I want to do musicians. Anybody who's important in culture, and it's not just Black culture. Like I said, the first person I did was Stan Lee, because how important he was to the culture that I was immersed in, with my talent and everything. So, I will do a whole wide range of people, but, right now there are just certain individual heroes, especially with baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan. I played baseball. My dad played baseball. My brother played baseball. My son is hopefully going to be the first one to go to the major leagues in the Pacich family. So we're trying to cultivate that. And I'm just doing people that, I looked up to. My wife being Jamaican, I had to do a Bob Marley painting or I'd never hear the end of that. So, yeah, even though me are aunties, I still have to do that, But Bobby Brown
Trey
painting.
said, Bobby Brown.
Wow.
You
Hey, and for all you
don't
hip
have
hop
to
heads out there, I am going to do the greatest MC of all time. I am going to do that. And it's not Tupac or Biggie Smalls, just to let you know.
Do we have any more questions? We have probably around 60 seconds left in the show. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, I do personal portraits. There is a process with that. Just contact me. Right now, I'm not doing anything, and probably until March. Things are crazy right now with everything going on. I'm the only one here. Like I said, my wife is, working in Texas, and I got the kids here and everything. But there is a process as far as, arranging a time period, a size, the portrait you want. Is it feasible? I mean, I've had people contact me with pictures of their great, 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 great grandparents from the 1870s, and they want me to make a color painting of them where I can't even see what they look like. So, I have to see if it's doable, feasible, but yeah, there is a process. No, not Doom.
Yeah.
The greatest MC of all time is Rakim. It goes Rakim, KRS-One, and then everybody else.
Right? Is it the greatest? Is it Rakim?
Rakim.
I'm sorry. Okay. Ricky Moss got it right.
Yeah, Black Thought. Any other questions?
Well, yeah. Do we have any other questions? Well, Mark, I thank you so much for allowing me to interview you. I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties, but I can't control AT&T. But thank you so much. And again, we're praying for your wife and for her to come back safe, and for you and the children. And we just thank you for allowing us to expose your paintings to the world and your life to the world. And thank you so much. That's all I can say. And I can't wait to
thank
see you
you.
again.
I'm so glad, with today's society and the way things are, this is a great way to communicate, get stuff out there. And if you ever want to interview me, especially when you get the YouTube thing rolling, I like the big crowds too. So I can give you a whole YouTube or an hour long, just the unknown step team. I can do whatever. I can give you the whole real history. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, but we're going to save it for the hospitality suite.
No, we'll keep that stuff out. But I can tell you, I can break it down to certain competitions and what went good, what went wrong. There are so many funny stories, technical difficulties, judges walking out. Right. I mean, trophies being broken. I can, believe me, we have an hour-long story just for those.
Well, we thank you so much. And for everybody, we will at the end of the show, and we're going to look to see you next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, same time, same place, same station. Thank you. Good night.